in as we go. So what I'm doing here is starting with that baseline, and then as we go through this, we're going to build on it. So down at the bottom on the spreadsheet, you'll see the next tab says cost of a complete job. And here we're going to take probably a more realistic view. What I wanted you to see initially was cost of operation versus units that we can produce versus cost per unit. But in the reality, there's a lot of things taking place. And the number one factor that eats up your profit or leads to increased cost is not ink, is not paper, is not the cost of substrates. It's downtime. It's that time spent preparing to get a job ready to run. That time spent where you're not doing production. Your money comes from production. When you're not doing production, you're not making money. Even if you're making sales, you're not making money. Therefore, your goal is, A, to have enough sales to keep yourself busy, but number two is to be as efficient as possible when you're running jobs, because your efficiency will translate into lower cost of production. So let me show you what we're talking about. So we're going to start out here. Average print press time, we said 2 minutes, but you know what? I felt like that was even too conservative. And I went ahead and added in another 30 seconds here. I know 30 seconds isn't a lot, but it adds up over the course of the day. So I put in substrate swap time because I realized that when you print out that piece of paper and then carry it over to that heat press, if I'm going to put 6 coasters on there, I'm going to have to tape those coasters down on that paper. That takes a little bit of time. If I'm going to be doing a Poly Performance t-shirt and I'm using the foam, I have to set that up. Okay, and it's pretty quick after you set the first one up, but there is still that time between the time I get the print out and the time that I actually get to print the shirt. And it could be higher than that, and you can change that. And then I have my number of workstations concept, keeping in mind that one workstation can still do multiple items if they're smaller items. Okay, so let's say we have a 12-piece job. Here's something that we haven't thought about yet, and that's that setup time for the initial job. When you first get ready to set up, you're going to have to, we're going to leave the art time out, okay? Your art creation time is another factor for sure, and if you're busy creating templates and things to print with and not doing printing and pressing, that's adding to the cost of the job. So you can actually add in a higher number here. Just for our purposes of discussion, I'm just talking about right here, my pre-production time is really getting the file open, getting everything selected the right way, getting the substrates out, kind of laying everything out. So I like to lay everything out so that I can roll once I get going. So I put in 15 minutes here. You may disagree with that. That's fine. You put in whatever you think. And then I have what we call post-production, because once we get finished, we're probably packing everything, checking it off, reviewing it, making sure it's right, making sure we don't have any ghosting or anything like that. And, we have downtime while we're doing that. And I put in 30 minutes here. So you can see on this job, I have an extra 45 minutes worth of downtime in addition to the production time. When you're producing, actually pressing is when you're generating the money, but these other things are part of the cost of generating the job. So you have to factor those in. That's the whole point here. So if we start working our way down, we'll still now say, let's see, production time. Calculated production time for print press is actually 2.5 minutes because we got our average time and our swap time. So the true production time, those two added together, 2.5 minutes. Then I put in unexpected downtime of about 10%. Okay, that's, you got to sneeze. You have to answer the phone. You have to go to the bathroom, things like that. So the thing is, I'm trying to be conservative. So really, I'm just coming out saying it takes maybe 2.8 minutes to print and press one run. So that means I'm going to be able to get 21.8 runs per hour. And being that I'm a one workstation outfit here, that means one item per time. That's going to be 21.8 pieces per hour that I'm going to get. So the time to print this total job, remember the total job was 12 pieces? The total time to print this one job was 33 minutes at that rate. But the total time to produce the job is significantly more based on that setup time and that post-production time. So the reality, we're going to spend about 1.3 hours doing this theoretically. If our hourly overhead was $32.53, that means the total cost to do this job, and that job had 12 pieces, was $42.29. So our production cost per piece was $3.52. I don't know what it is you produced, but that's really what it worked out to, okay? So let's say whatever that thing was you were producing cost you $1.50. I don't know where they came with that, but let's say it cost you $1.50. And then we have to pay to ship it, $9.95. Maybe that's extreme for those 12 pieces. I don't know what they were. But remember that your cost of goods is the price you paid for it plus the shipping cost to get it in your hands. And that's why I've added that in as a reminder. So you find out that the blank substrate really cost you $2.33 to procure, and to produce it was $3.52, so the total cost is $5.85. If you had a desired markup of 150%, that would be $14.63 would be your selling price. Now, the beauty of this, first of all, is the $5.85 covered all my cost of running my business is all factored in there, including my paycheck theoretically. And I say theoretically because that only works if you constantly have enough sales to keep yourself busy, enough to keep, production going. The reality, you probably don't. So the more margin that you have built in, because all this extra margin here is above your operational cost, but the more margin the better, because that way when you have too much to do, you're generating significant amount of extra revenue to help cover things when your business slows down and you're not making enough money. So it's important as you're making a lot of money, okay, we call that the feast or famine kind of thing, that you're maybe putting some away so when it slows down, you have plenty of money there to cover your operating costs. Now, how much do you mark up? That's always the big question that I get, and there is no answer to that because markups are all based on the perception of value in the customer's mind. So if you show the customer something and think it's worth $10 and you need 15, you got to figure a way to convince them it's worth 15. If you can't do it, they're not going to pay for it. So the reality of your markup is that's when you start, stepping out of this pricing concept and into a marketing concept. How do we position these products to achieve the highest perceived value so that we can get the highest possible markup? That's marketing, promotion, sales techniques that do that. There is no standard markup across the board, and it can change with the demographics of who you're servicing as well as the geographics too. Keep that in mind. But I think this lays it out pretty well for you. Now, again, if we go down talking about the workstations, and what about if we put in 6, meaning that we had an output of 6 items each time? You see the price starts dropping down. Our production price dropped down to $2.28. Maybe you can actually get 10 pieces in one pressing, and it dropped down to $2.18. So if we're getting multiple pieces in one pressing, it's not changing the length of time for the actual pressing itself. We're just getting more units in that one pressing slot, and we're getting the overall time for doing the job to be lower. So maybe when we're doing small piece items, we're actually getting that price down, which can be very important because that perceived value of something small. Okay, whereas we're doing T-shirts, maybe it's up in this range. Okay, to be honest with you, if it was a T-shirt, the wholesale price is probably $5. So that Poly Performance tee probably costs you about $9.35, and you're probably selling it somewhere in the $20 to $25 range anyway. So depending, again, on how effective you are of promoting the benefits of Poly Performance apparel. Okay, so that's kind of cost out what a complete job looks like from beginning to end. And then we want to take it to another level because ultimately we want to create a price sheet. You don't want to sit there with a calculator on every job. You want to be able to start factoring things in. One of the things that's important to understand is the whole thing about efficiency, because if I can get larger jobs, for example, that means I spend more time printing and pressing, less time setting up and breaking down. Okay, because if you look at this, if you have a setup time of, say, 15 minutes, I'm just using as a standard for our setup, and 30 minutes for our post-production time, and then we do a single piece run, one piece, okay, we're going to spend, 45 minutes or so to do one job, okay, a little bit more than 45 minutes. You know that that's going to be expensive, as you can see here, okay? But on the other hand, if I have maybe 2 pieces, then I have the same setup and the same post-production, but I've actually put distance between the two, meaning that, I have one set of downtime, 15 minutes, and then I press, and then I have some downtime. That means I'm getting better efficiency on my time. As you can see this in the larger piece runs, okay, that is definitely getting cheaper as I go, significantly cheaper because I have less downtime. And part of that, too, is looking at every job and staging things out to try and minimize this, these numbers, too. I mean, maybe we can get our setup time down to 5 minutes on average, or our post time down to 10 minutes on average. I don't know, but that's all about getting that production time down. Same thing with the actual printing and pressing. Maybe I can get that down to 2 minutes on average, depending on what it is I'm running, getting more pieces out. All those things are what are going to drive down that pricing. And that's important because we can really get our costs down if we work pretty hard on making this all happen. And that's a big part of pricing anyway. It's not just about figuring out what to charge somebody. It's figuring out what it costs you to produce it so that you can scientifically set up a set of charges to build a customer. And that's what you're trying to do here. So you're doing multiple things. You're trying to make your operation more cost effective, and I'm trying to show you how all those things tie in together so you can better manage what's going on there.